1600 hours Indian Standard Time. So we will now proceed with the webinar. Thank you everyone for taking some time out to join this webinar celebrating the 11th edition of the World Radio Day. Theme for this World Radio Day is to radio to truth. Starting off, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone currently logged on to this webinar, which is
Good afternoon.
organized by Indian DX Club International, Kolkata, India. So, Indian DX Club International is, or IDXI, as is popularly known as, is an informal association of radio enthusiasts, DXRs, headquartered at Kolkata, India. And IDXCI publishes a monthly newsletter, Asian DX Review, in a digital format, which can be downloaded from our club website, www.idxci.in. You can also subscribe to our Facebook group, WhatsApp group, and Telegram group for regular interaction with us. So, unlike every year, Indian DX Club International, as in past years, is celebrating the World Radio Day 2022 with this virtual meeting in view of raging pandemic. Before we start, I would request all participants to keep their microphone on mute. In case you have any questions, queries, please share them in the chat box. We'll pick up and answer if the time limit permits. And myself, Sandeepan, I am the host for this webinar today on behalf of IDXI, welcoming you all again here. We're conducting this webinar and I am supported by Devanjan Chakravarti, Olokesh Gupta, Sudipta Ghosh, and Dr. Supratik Sanathan. We'll also be issuing certificate of participation for this event. Would you be interested in getting a copy of yours? We'll share a link in the chat box during the course of the program, which you can fill up, and we'll be happy to share a certificate with you. In today's event, we'll start with the history and significance of the World Radio Day, followed by views by Dr. Supratik Sanatani with title Radio is the ultimate communication medium for all distances. Next would be To Radio to Trust, a write-up by Pradeep Kundu, a veteran DXR from India, and selected the top DXR third time in a row by Top DX Club. Unfortunately, due to his personal engagement, he probably could not make it here today. In his absence, our beloved Sudipta Ghosh will be reading out the article on his behalf today. We again thank you all who took time out from their busy schedule to participate in today's World Radio Day event. Starting with the webinar, let's look into the history and significance of the radio and World Radio Day. And before we proceed, we'd request anyone who is not on mute to please keep their microphone on mute for the continuity of the program and undisturbed flow of the program. So, starting off, in the age of countless online platform, radio has remained the most robust and far-reaching medium of communication. Every year on 13th of February, World Radio Day is commemorated to honor one of the oldest and widely consumed medium of communication. So according to UNESCO, radio is a strong and powerful medium of celebrating humanity in all its diversity and constitutes a platform for democratic discourse. The importance and reach of radio can well understood and proven by our Honorable Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's radio show Man Ki Baat. Like every year, UNESCO has also called on the radio stations across the globe to celebrate this day along with the radio enthusiasts across the world. Talking about the theme for this year's World Radio Day celebration, this year UNESCO is celebrating the 11th anniversary of World Radio Day and more than a century of the medium. The day is divided into three main sub-themes. The first is trust in radio journalism. This sub-theme refers to producing independent and high-quality content. In order to gain the trust of listeners, journalism should be based on a verifiable information. Next is trust and accessibility. This theme focuses on proving the accessibility of content to the person with disabilities, such as sign language or automated subtitles for hearing impaired audience or announcement of content for blind listeners. Trust and viability of radio station. The ability of radio stations to engage and retain a large enough base of loyal listener is linked to their economic viability in this sub-theme. So what's all about what's the history of World Radio Day? So most of us have been associated with this radio, but again, we take the opportunity to look back into the history of radio. So if we look at history, radio dates back to mid 19th century in the world. It worked with the help of sound wave and signals which transmitted the messages to a specified bandwidth. In India, radio arrived in the early 20th century. However, it took several years before it became popular medium of mass media. The need of radio was felt keeping in mind of the information dissemination for the uneducated people, the ones who were unable to read advertisement and newspaper were able to listen and understand to things better after the emergence of radio. To keep the popularity of medium alive and to promote its usage among all, World Radio Day is celebrated every year on this date. The day was proclaimed in 2011 by the member states of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO as we know, and later adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012 as the International Day for Radio. As per the UNESCO, its executive board recommended the proclamation of World Radio Day to the 36th General Conference based on a feasibility study taken by the organization further to a proposal from Spain. So what's the importance of this World Radio? The main objective, if I have to say, of celebrating the day is to make people realize the present day importance of the medium of ear. Even after years of television popularity, radio is holding a reputed position in the world in the forum of medium of music, a travel companion, and raising voices of the community through community radio. In a world full of fake news circulating on digital platform, radio has still managed to reach out to people as a trustworthy news source. During COVID-19 pandemic, radio has proven to be a credible source of information without inciting hate or discrimination. Being the most widely consumed medium, radio is the most effective and trusted way of delivering information. So radio stations provide a diverse selection of programs that are appropriate for local population across the globe. The medium also plays a critical role in emergency communication during the type of natural disaster. The radio was invented before the television and the internet as a medium or internet as a mean to disseminate news and information to the audience. So as per BBC station 8 MK in Detroit, Michigan, broadcast the first radio news program on 31st August 1920. Subsequently, during World War II, radio became a vital means of communication for both military and general public. Nowadays, we enjoy the medium of to listening to news, songs, as well as sports commentaries primarily. Now, I would like to hand over the microphone to Dr. Supratik Sanatani, a veteran DXR and one of the founder members of Indian DX Club International. We are privileged to have in our webinar today and looking forward to have some interesting perspective of radio in line with the World Radio Day theme. Dr. Sanatani, microphone is all yours.
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
loud and clear. Microphone is all
Yeah.
yours,
Yeah.
Dr. Sanatani.
Yes. Yes. That was a nice introduction by Sundipan. Radio today is at a flux. When we talk of radio, the cell phone, which also uses the radio, is competing with what we mean as radio. I was talking to a young man who is doing mass communication. I asked him, uh, what do you think of the future of international shortwave broadcasting? Poor fellow had no idea. He said, Sir, I'm into peer to peer communication, I'm not into broadcasting. So that brings us to the dilemma of our hobby and the media that today, when we talk of radio for the common man, unfortunately, it has been overtaken by internet and to much extent by the mobile phone, which uses radio waves to bring message to him. But uh, as I'm here to emphasize, like UNESCO, uh, broadcasting through radio is here and will be there to stay, because internet connectivity can vary from place to place. Your mobile towers can vary from place to place. There will be regulatory matters, there will be government restrictions, but broadcasting through shortwave, through medium wave, through even through FM, it needs small equipment and anyone can access. So this was the past of mass communication. This is very much there in present today, not the principal mode definitely, but it is here to stay. Now, next, I would like to emphasize the three aspects why uh, radio broadcasting is important. Number one, as Sundipon pointed out, that you get authentic information. Today, the main problem with internet-based information is that you do not know what is fake and what is real. But same also in radio, you can have fake, but most of the time it is the real information. Here there are many of us who have been who have seen the heydays of radio. I remember when there was the coup in Seychelles, I could hear FEBA saying that our broadcasting is interrupted. So that gives you some information that something is wrong in Seychelles. When there was the coup in Bangladesh, I still remember vividly that they used to say that we are having a break in transmission because of issues in the country. And I vividly remember when Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated and no one knew what was happening. And those days, the BBC World Service evening news is to begin at 9 hours UTC, which was evening 2:30 p.m. So I still remember we were all eagerly waiting, and in BBC they announced that Mrs. Gandhi has been assassinated by her bodyguards. So that brings us that when it comes to fast communication, of course, today internet is there, but in internet you key in the word. Like yesterday, I was trying to find out about certain incidents which is here about what our governor had said, but it took me a lot of time. Whereas in radio, tune on to the All India Radio, you get the brief idea about what is happening. So medium wave, short wave, and FM is here. Definitely not the majority, but it is here to stay. Coming to the DXer, the hobbyist, on the other side of the spectrum. The best thing about being a hobbyist is now it is easy for us to acquire amateur radio equipments, easy for us to get the license, and the radio waves are there both for, I mean, many of the DXers would not take an amateur radio license to be a radio amateur, but they would take the amateur radio license to put up those fancy antennas to listen to that distant Indonesian or that distant Australian medium wave, and no one will come and question you. Number two, it is the thanks to the amateur radio group, we have good equipment available nowadays. As you know, ICOM withdrew its R75, but for buying high-end or even for buying affordable communication receivers, you have to go in for the amateur radio vendors. So that is the good part, but that is also the bad part. Because of this environmental noise, it is difficult for the common radio stations to reach the small handheld set, even for medium wave. So this is where we are. We have to accept the reality, but then there is a lot of there are a lot of opportunities. We have a number of new entrants coming into the hobby of radio DXing, and radio DXing is here to stay. We have 3 groups. One of we still have the basic radio listeners who would switch on the radio, probably DRM, and listen to his favorite station, just streaming, maybe also in the FM. Next, we have the specific radio country chasers. They would try to log in as many countries over the radio as possible. And then you have the specialized persons who have advanced knowledge of the propagation, advanced knowledge of the frequency schedule, advanced knowledge of the operating schedules, because luckily all this information is easily available now, again thanks to internet. So with all this group, we still have a faithful band of listeners, mainly hobbyists, who have got lot of opportunities to use the radio waves for whatever way their hobby suits them. So this World Radio Day is, I would like to emphasize once again, we are at a flux. I have been telling my friends that in the journals, it pains me every day when I hear of another radio station closing down. But the good message underneath is that the entire hobby of DXing is changing. The entire broadcasting over internet is changing. Our DXer can, just like DRM is just a different modulation. Our DXer can access many different modulation thanks to our software defined radios. So we have lot of opportunities on the listening end. For the common man who's not so motivated, yes, it is a difficult position, because simply because you walk into an electronic store, ask for a radio set, most probably you won't get one. If you have a radio set, my mother, 80-year-old mother, 180 kilometers away from Calcutta, wants to listen to All India Radio Calcutta, the signals will not reach there. She has to do with the local FM station. But just like we are in a fast changing world, what is news to me, what is hit today, like Orkut, if you remember, though Orkut was a runaway hit few years ago, now Google just closed down Orkut. So these new medias come and go, but on this radio, on this World Radio Day, I would close with the conclusion that radio was there, radio is here today, and radio is there for future, for both near and far communication. You can hear on 7145 your friend at the other end of the city, or you can log on to 14200 kilohertz SSB to listen to your friend in the US. That is the future of radio. With that, I would close today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanatani. That was quite an interesting perspective, the radio nowadays. Now I move on to Shudipto Ghosh, who would take us through one of the write-ups by Pradeep Kundu, one of our veteran DXRs and the initial members of Indian DX Club International. Due to his personal commitments, engagements, he could not make it here today. And Sudipta Ghosh will take it from here. And after that, once we have sufficient time, we can take few questions, views on this World Radio Day from some of our participants here on this webinar today. Over to you, Sudipta Ghosh.
Uh, Thank you, Sandipan, and thank you, Pradeep Chandra Kundu. Pradeep Chandra Kundu, as I learn, is now at present, at the moment, in thick of radio. He is overseeing a examination scheme for radio amateurs in his hometown at Agartala. He is on this World Radio Day. He is in very much in this radio activity. Now, he has kindly forwarded a write-up that he has submitted to Northeast Colors, the English daily from Northeast India, which has published this script in their daily edition of today. Now I read his write-up as submitted to this Northeast Colors newspaper. Radio and trust. In such a time when the radio scenario around our country is very much gloomy, we are going to celebrate 11th World Radio Day on this February 13, 2022. Prasar Bharati has already wiped out its domestic shortwave network completely. Only AIR lay still alive. Many medium wave stations are also pushed to the pages of history, and more to follow soon. It's really a miserable story. Here I must quote a few lines from the message of Audrey Ausley, Director General of UNESCO, on the occasion of World Radio Day. Quote, more than ever, we need this universal humanist medium, vector of freedom. Without radio, the right to information and freedom of expression, and with them, fundamental freedoms would be weakened, as would cultural diversity, since community radio stations are the voices of voiceless, unquote. Hope this outlined the importance of radio in our civilized society perfectly. World Radio Day got its start in 2011 when member states of UNESCO adopted February 13, the anniversary of founding of United Nations Radio in 1946, as World Radio Day, in an effort to raise greater awareness of the importance of radio, to encourage decision makers to provide access to information via radio, and to enhance networking and international cooperation among broadcasters. Eventually, first World Radio Day was observed in 2012. Every year, World Radio Day is observed worldwide with a particular theme chosen by UNESCO. Already we have got several such themes in previous years, focusing different aspects of radio. This year's theme is Radio and Trust. It mainly recognizes radio's standing as one of the most trusted media sources around. Even as various studies reveal a global decline in trust in the internet and social media networks, people continue to see radio as one of the most trustworthy news sources. UNESCO says part of people's trust in radio is due to its low cost and ubiquitous nature. Further added, despite digitalization being a global tendency, digital access to information is far from being equal, with huge differences remaining between region and between communities. The theme of this year's World Radio Day is divided into three main sub-themes: trust in radio journalism, produce independent and high-quality content, respecting basic standards of ethical journalism has become challenging in the present high-tempo digital age. However, in order to keep or raise listeners' trust, journalism must continue to be based on verifiable information that is shared in public interest and helps society a better future for all. In this context, editorial independence is very essential as it may show the ability of radio stations to prepare news free from any influence. Moreover, real understanding of digital technologies and social platforms is key to avoid circulation of unverified information. Investing in fact checking, investigative journalism, and rigorous verification of sources and content are some of the practices radio broadcasters could strengthen to keep listeners' trust. Trust and accessibility. Take care of your audience. Reaching out to a selected audience group implies serving the information needs of all listeners and being a catalyst for integration and social participation, including persons with disabilities. Digital radio platforms provide grounds for innovation in the accessibility of content for the latter, such as the use of sign languages or automated subtitles for hearing impaired audience when streaming or announcement of contents for blind listeners. Actually, gaining listeners' trust implies conveying diversity in all its forms, staff origins, information sources, formats, programming, editorial contents, etc. People who feel represented and can access information that is relevant to them may become loyal listeners. Trust and viability of radio stations ensure competitiveness. Radio cannot survive when financial crisis hit media market. Question arises how to transform loyal audience engagements into financial sustainability. So this sub-theme links the economic survival of radio stations to their ability to attract and retain a large enough base of loyal listeners to be sustainable or to embed listeners' interaction into their business models. In fact, most radio stations are small or medium enterprise and find themselves in dire situation financially. Even public service broadcasters are also facing the same problem. New funding models are to be worked out to solve this. For instance, subscription, membership models, local advertisements, etc., as may be considered. In conclusion, I appeal you all to put your best endeavor to keep radio alive because this is the media which connects different cultures and diversities to weave us all together in one thread. No matter what your age is, no matter where you live in, you can always connect with the outside world with a radio. So, happy World Radio Day.
Thank you, Shudipto, for this views or the write-up from Pradeep Kundu. Before we move into the interactive session with our participants here today, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our members, our followers here of IDXCI who could not make it to this webinar today. And they have sent us their views, mails expressing their inability to join. One of them is Anatoly Klepov from Moscow, the Russia, the publisher of Rus DX Bulletin. He is currently having not good of health, but he expressed or conveyed the regards for this World Radio Day. Unfortunately, due to his bad health, he could not make it today. Next, we have Thomas Witherspoon of SWLing blog. He, due to his personal engagements, could not make it today, but conveyed his best wishes to IDXCI on this World Radio Day. Again, we have Glenn Hauser. Unfortunately, he is not set up for the Zoom or Google Meet, and it would be middle of the night. and he requested if he can watch it later. Definitely, we will have this meeting uploaded in the YouTube in some point of time. Thank you, Glenn Hauser, for your message. Martin Butera from Brazil wishes and the members for this World Radio Day. We have an interesting from Angry Peterson. I would like the opportunity to read out this mail. So he reads, Dear Mr. Bashik, thank you for your kind email. Unfortunately, I'm not able for technical reasons to participate in your webinar celebrating the World Radio Day. I saw in the latest issue of your excellent DX Bulletin that your club celebrates 40 years of existence. That's quite a record. Congratulations to all your members. I began my club international. It existed until the end of year 2016. During its 60 years, I had three chairmen, of which I was one. I heard my first All India radio station in New Delhi on 21st October 1958 in English to Europe on 11710 kHz with QSA 5. I have many QSLs from several AIR shortwave stations. I am terribly sorry that All India Radio decided to close most of their domestic shortwave stations in 2021. They were all well heard in Denmark during dark hours. I visited India in year 2010 on a big tourist tour, which brought me to AIR Gangtok. After the guided tour, Alokesh Gupta and T.R. Rajesh from Kerala kindly drove me to AIR headquarters in New Delhi, where we had an interesting meeting with Mr. Oberoi. Then we drove northwards past the AIR station in Kingsway and visited the AIR station in Kanpur. So he attaches also a few photographs of his. He's standing in front of AIR Gangtok, T.R. Rajesh, Mr. Oberoi, and Alokesh Gupta. And Alokesh Gupta with himself in the AIR Kanpur. So that's the message. And he mentions, if you wish to see what DX matters nowadays, you can download them from dswci.org. There I publish the domestic broadcasting survey and the tropical bands monitor. This 73 Anchor Peterson. That's quite some informative and nostalgic information from Anchor Peterson. Now I open the floor for views, inputs on this World Radio Day, starting off with Mitul Kansal. Mitul, if you can say a few words on this World Radio Day, your views, please. Mitul, if you can hear us. Unfortunately, Mitul, I could see has left from one of these. I will next call upon Dr. Jayashaktivel. Dr. Jayashaktivel.
Yeah, yes. Good evening to one and all. It's an immense pleasure to attend this wonderful August gathering in this particular important day. There's a lot of big shots were here. I can't give a special thanks or wishes to all. I must wishes to all. Of course, Sudip goes where give a wonderful talk where about that DXing, and Sanatani were also shared his experience, the vast experience in its DXing. So it's an interesting thing that the people who are listening your talk were there in this particular important day. So I must thank the team IDXCI for arranging this wonderful event in this particular important day. So last year I was there in Thiruvananthapuram. Thank God now I'm in Chennai and participating in this event. So apart from this particular meet, why don't you add some more interesting things where, for example, you gave a talk, something like that, no? Sanatani were sharing his experience like that. there is a lot of people who are there in this IDXC were having a lot of experience. So as a budding DXOs, we people always want to know a lot of things were from these peoples. So this is the time that in this kind of events you have to make it like that one, at least 6 months once or 3 months once. That will be a wonderful one, because it is a good platform for us to meet all you are there in this Zoom or in a Google Meet. So it's a request for IDXC. I think you people will take care of this one. Thank you very much for the space for me to talk in this particular session.
Thank you, Dr. Jayashaktivel. It was nice to hear from you. We have Prithviraj Purakayasto, but unfortunately he is traveling. Prithviraj Purakayasto is one of the segment presenter of Indian DX report in AWR web scan. So since he is on the move, he would be able to speak. Thank you anyway, Prithviraj, for your message, and we wish you to continue with this Indian DX report on AWR web scan. We have James from Radio Emma Talk, and a lot of people are eagerly waiting to hear from James. And he is having, last time we heard his Indian connection, and that was quite interesting, James. Would definitely, like me, all of us here are eager to hear from you on this World Radio Day.
Hello, I just want to check. Can you hear me? A thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you? Okay, that's good.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to be here, and you're actually making me very homesick, and I better explain that because we're very fortunate in my family that my youngest son Michael is married to Karishma Goyal from Jaipur, and they live with us here in the UK. So we've been trying for the last 2 years to get back to India and to visit Jaipur and all our family who now spread to India. So we're hoping to return in October. So we're really looking forward to that. And we enjoyed being in Jaipur back in 2019 for their wedding. So we have the privilege to have Karishma living with us here in the UK, and we also now have extended family in India. So we're very grateful for that. It's nice to join with you on World Radio Day as well, and I'm always interested in the difference in how we look at radio here in the UK. World Radio Day is hardly mentioned. It's very rarely mentioned, and it's quite interesting that I've noticed on Facebook and Twitter how World Radio Day is important in India, in Africa, in different parts of the world. But here in the UK, we don't really register that it's World Radio Day. And it got me thinking that for us in the UK, I think we tend to look on our radios as entertainment. And I'm reminded of the BBC motto, which is radio is here to educate, entertain and inform. And I think in many parts of the world, radio is used for educating and informing. But here in the UK, we tend to use it for entertainment, which is a bit of a pity. But we still use the radio a lot. But obviously, we have all the competing factors of the internet and social media and mobile phones, as been mentioned. It's very interesting talks, and it's nice to hear that people feel the same, that radio has to compete with all these other technologies. But I'm also reminded, because my little radio project celebrates one of the first radio stations here in the UK. Back in the 1930s, I think a lot of people thought that radio would die out because of television, but it didn't. Radio survived, and now radio really for the last 20 years has been faced with another massive competition in the form of the internet, but radio still survives, and I think still will survive. And from my point of view, I think shortwave radio is very different now, but it's alive and well. And a lot of people are looking at using modern technology with shortwave, and that works very well. Digital transmissions, shortwave radiograms, sending pictures in a hobby form and an enthusiast form. I think that's very interesting. And I'm always, whenever there's a disaster in the world, whatever type, if it's if it's a political or an overthrow of a government, one of the first things that happens is the internet gets turned off. Well, they can't turn a radio transmitter off. It can be jammed, but it can't be turned off. So I think radio still has a massive place. And I think a lot of countries will have to consider, maybe rethink their reasoning behind behind turning off their external broadcasting systems. Also, recently with the earthquake in Tonga, it was interesting to know that communications that were very difficult between, say, Australia and Tonga. And yet, if there were radio hams on Tonga, then communications would have carried on. And I'm also a radio ham, and often the first form of communication out of an area where there's been a disaster is by the radio hams. So radio still has a massive place in our world. And I think a lot of youngsters, if we take the time with them to explain the importance of radio, they do take that on board. So there's all the competitions for it, but radio still has a massive place. So that's, I think, what I'd like to add to the discussion. And it's been nice to be here with you and share the hobby with like-minded people. So I'll hand it back to you. And thanks for inviting me in for a chat. And I can't wait to get back to Jaipur.
Yeah, thanks, James, for your words, and we definitely look forward to you visiting India in October and the pandemic situation gets eased out sooner. So we have among us Dr. D.K. Sarkar, who also contributed to Asian DX Review in one of his articles in recent past, and a very avid and DXer. Dr. D.K. Sarkar, if you can share a few words with us, please. We can move on to Mr. Alokesh Gupta is one of the members and avid follower of DRM scene in India. So anyone with DRM must heard of Alokesh. He is trying to bring together all those in DRM scene together. So Alokesh, if you can help us with some updates on DRM, your views.
Happy World Radio Day to everyone. DRM, the transmitter infrastructure is already there. I mean, the broadcasts are also on air. Everyone is looking for a cheap solution for the receiving, actually, basically. We had couple of receivers, but unfortunately, the price was a bit high. So basically, we are looking for some cheap receivers. I mean, there's one company which bought out one Indian company. There are a few Chinese also. So we're looking for a few more solutions. If we get them, then I mean DRM could catch up actually. And
so that's great to hear about the DRM scene, and there are quite a few DRM enthusiasts who are trying to take DRM to the last mile of the users. Now, many of the car manufacturers in India are having the DRM solutions inbuilt with the car audio systems, like the Kia or the Maruti Suzuki or the MG of the world in their top line getting the DRM enabled. And our
yeah,
radio
that's true.
enthusiasts are taking it to the various car dealers, even when they did a survey or they are trying to inquire about what is DRM all about, what is this feature, and quite to astonish, they could not explain. So the DRM group, the DRM enthusiasts are taking up this cause and making them understand what is this DRM concept is all about. Quite encourageable to help promote the DRM scene here in India.
Yes,
I
yes.
would.
Dr. Rao from Vizag is doing great work. Actually, he's been contacting the dealers and explaining them then how the DRM, the what do you call it, the inbuilt
Functional.
receiver works. Yeah, the functions and all. So he's doing a great job. Today also there's an article in Hindu, the Hindu newspaper about his work. So it's really great. I mean, Dr. Rao is doing great work.
Great. So we have Pradeep Kundu who could
Pradeep
make
Kundu has
it.
joined. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Pradeep, it's great to have you among us. I am sure you must be having a quite hectic day out there in Agartala. Best wishes on this World Radio Day. If you can share a few words with us, we already had your article read out by Sudipto Da. Pradeep Da, if you can hear us. We now open this forum to everyone, anyone who can come up and speak about this before we wrap up this session. We have still 10 minutes left with us. Pradipta, if you can hear us, we would first like to hear from you, then go on to the any members.
Hello, good afternoon. Do you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Pradipta. Welcome to this webinar.
Yeah. I am still in the venue of ASOC exam here in Muktadhara. I have just managed a few minutes time to come out from the room, and I mean I'm very delighted that you all guys are doing this nice job there. I was really missing for some time that I could not manage time for participating in the webinar. Anyway, and here it is a very, what I say, very active day for me today in the early morning. And as you know, coincide with all radio day here, ASOC examination is going on, and two batches, already second batches are in the sitting here. First batch has been 162 participants took part in the exam. Now it is again almost 150. I think 300, total 300 candidates are taking part in the exam here today. And Tripura Ham Radio Club is managing everything with the help of NIR and Revenue Department of State Government. And for me, I will go back after a while because at 6 p.m. There is a program scheduled for me, some discussion about All Radio Day with All India Radio Agartala. That will be a telephonic conversation, and so it is very hectic day for me, I think. Thank you.
Great to hear from you, Pradipta, and we wish you all the best for conducting the ASOC exam at Agartala, and all the best for the interview which is scheduled to be aired on All India Radio.
Actually, it is very noisy at surrounding here. That is why I am not getting clear signal also. Anyway, I think you have understood my what I was speaking.
Yes, yes, we have heard you loud and clear, Pradipta. Yes, we are quite used to the background noise by virtue of a radio, and this radio have helped us picking up the context from the background noise as well. Thanks to all the hobby, despite the background noise, we were able to pick what you were communicating. Thank you, Pradipda. All the best for your exam and everything. And before I open this floor to everyone, I would like to thank everyone who could take time out in celebrating the World Radio Day participating this webinar by Indian DX Club International. It was
Yeah,
really a great pleasure to hear from some eminent people, the veterans, DXRs, the radio hobbyists from different parts of the country and world coming together and sharing their experience of radio. I'm sure in coming days we'll keep the radio scene alive with adversities, with the change in technology. Radio is here to stay, and radio will always be there with us. I would thank you everyone once again for your time. Happy World Radio Day. I now open this floor to any views by any of the participants here.
yeah. I am Sanmu Sundaram from Coimbatore. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I would like to extend my World Radio Day greetings to one and all, to the Indian DX Club international members, and also listeners of this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We have among us Nizamuddin. We quite often see his posts about various QSLs coming in, and it's nice to see people still chasing this radio hub stations for QSLs and everything. And that's very encouraging for us even to see people keeping the scene alive, DXing scene alive. Nizamuddin, it would be great if you can share a few words how, among all the business in your life, you are keeping this scene alive. Really encouraging for all of us here while we see the posts coming in every time. Over to you, Nizamuddin.
Thank you, Sandipanda. Uh, Also, thank you very much to IDXCI for arranging the nice webinar. I am very lucky to join such a nice event. Thank you. And I wish all a very happy World Radio Day. And thank you, all the participants. Actually, I am very little knowledge about DXing, and I am very proud to join this webinar and uh, join this nice DXing hobby. Thank you very much.
Great to hear from you, Nizamuddin. It was pleasure having you among us. Really keep the DXing scene alive. I will call upon those who I have heard. Nirmal Kumar, if you can share a few words. Nirmal sir, if you can say a few words for us, or Dr. Anurag from Shiliguri. So we still have 5 minutes left. We would like to hear from you.
I'm Sudhir Pandey from Mumbai.
Yes, Sudhir Pandey ji.
Uh, I wish you all happy World Radio Day. And I want to suggest if we can give some suggestion to government that we can make placid card museum in India. Like in Europe, we see there are many museums, USA museums in Europe and America. So if we can collectively, take some initiative and ask the ministry so that it can be, very, good initiative for upcoming generation. They can come to know how radio hobbing, people used to do. Because I have contacted earlier contacted some Austrian DX club, and they have some museums in Austria and like that. So can we give some suggestions to Indian government that we need an QSL museum in our country, like radio museum and all?
Thank you, Sudhir Pandey ji, for your views. Definitely, someone will pick it up from here. I'm sure someone will support it. We are just about to finish this program. Any last words from Babul Gupta, Dr. Supratik Sanatani, Sudipto Ghosh, any one of you before we conclude this event?
Thank
Yeah, good evening. This is Dr. Anurag from Siliguri. Can I
Yeah,
proceed?
yeah. Please, Dr. Anurag.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present through Indian DX Club International. I came to know about this group via Babul Babu and Sudipto sir, and I am very glad to be part of you all. And this is the group that keeps everyone motivated for DXing. That is the most important part, I feel. And I have only one request in this World Radio Day. Please keep arranging one DXer meet or any thing like that. So keep our this generation motivated to use the radio. This is the only request I have to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anurag. We have a request from Mr. Venkat. Mr. Venkat, you can proceed, please. Microphone all yours.
Hi, greetings to everyone. I am Venkatratnam from Andhra Pradesh, presently residing in Hyderabad. I am since 1980. I am associated with IDXCI. It is nice to see you all. It is I am a retired person. I came back to the hobby of DXing. Back I am enjoying it with the digital radios. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkata sir. And
Devanjan, I just saw that Debashis Malik has joined. Debashis Malik. So can we have few words from you? Debashis is basically an FMDX enthusiast from Odisha
oh, great. Devashish, it would be great if we can have few words from you.
and a fantastic home brewer.
Devashish, if you can hear us, Devashish Malik from Odisha. I believe
Debashis is muted. I don't know.
probably he is unable to unmute it. So, thank you once again, everyone. Shudip Sudha, any last, the final words for the participants today?
Uh, uh, I would like to say that the enthusiasm that we have witnessed today, the club should go ahead with a quarterly DX meet, not for this World Radio Day only. For every 3 months, we should uh, uh, organize such a meeting so that people can express their views. We can have this meeting like a one-to-one conference like that. The club will certainly think about this, I hope, and will keep the participants as today or in for future such meets informed. We hope to meet everybody again in the next meeting. Previously, we used to visit our members, IDXA members, during the 80s and 90s. Personally, we went on a tour to their places. Now, this is not possible for our age also and for the current raging pandemic. I had been to Hyderabad recently, but I could not meet anybody of our old members. I'm sorry for that. In future, whenever I go to any city, I'll certainly give an advance notice to the people there so that we can have one-to-one eyeball QSO. Thank you everybody for joining this meeting, and we hope to organize another meeting in next 3 months. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shudip Sudha. And we call the end of this webinar. Thank you everyone for your participation, and we look forward to have you in our next webinar. Thank you everyone.